Hi all. If you were on Coffee and Pie this morning, you saw a complete failure of me trying to demonstrate Power Automate. So here we go again, and this time it will be a lot smoother, I promise, and you will see how you can build a flow. And we're going to start from scratch. We're not going to use a template, just so you know that you can build a flow out in many different ways, rather than just using the templates that they give you. So to start, we have gone into Power Automate. Here's the home page in case you don't recognize what you're seeing. We're going to create over here on the left panel, and we're going to use automated cloud flow. There's all kinds of options here, but this one is automated. The other ones you have to trigger yourself, or you have to have someone else to trigger it different ways. So we want to use the automated one. So click on the automated one, and we're going to give it a name. And luckily, the trigger that we're looking for is at the top here, but notice there are multiple triggers here, and it even gives you an option to expand to show more triggers. The one we want is when a new response is submitted on Microsoft Forms. So we're going to choose that, and we're going to click Create. So the first thing it wants is what form we're using. So we're going to go here and a little tip, if it says there are no items here, go to the ellipses here and make sure that you're using the correct account. In my case, as I mentioned in Coffee and Pie, I have several accounts and it doesn't want to pick up information from one or the other at times. So if we change it, we notice that there are now forms. And the one we want is the Power Automate tutorial form. Okay, so our next step is we have to tell it to read what's in the form so that it can respond in the way we want it to. So we're going to go back to Forms, and we're going to click on this first one here, Get Response Details. So it's just going to read what the responses were in the form. And again, we're going to tell it what form we're using. And again, if you have multiple accounts, it may go to the wrong account. You can change that. And we choose the correct form. And then response ID is just going to be this response ID over here in the dynamic content. So it's just a number that's assigned as each response is submitted. It just matches what's in that form. We're going to add another step, and this one's going to be the approval. So we want it to trigger an approval based on the email and the name that's given for the approval in the form. Again, if you weren't in the Coffee and Pie session this morning, I created a form in Shared Services, and it looks like this. It just has the first name, last name, a question, and then the approver and the approver email. Your form can have any questions you want and any responses that you need to collect. I also created an Excel sheet. And the Excel sheet, the column headers match the questions on the form. So we have a first name, a last name, the question, the approver, and the approver email. Notice in Excel, I mentioned this before, but if you are using Excel for anything in Power Automate, you need to make sure that the content that you're wanting to collect is formatted as a table. It doesn't matter what formatting you choose. I just chose one at random, but that tells Power Automate that this is a table, and therefore there are column headers, so the information goes in the correct header, under the correct header from the form responses. So going back to Power Automate, we've got approvals here, and we've got several options under here, and the one we want is start and wait for an approval. If you're not sure, there are these little eyes that you can click on, and it'll explain what the difference is for these. So we're going to click start and wait for an approval, and we're going to select an approval type. And this one is just going to be first to respond. If you had multiple people to respond to approve something and you needed every single one of them to approve, you could do everyone must approve or wait for all responses, something of that sort. But in this case, we just need someone to approve it. It's going to be one person. So we're going to say first to respond. So now we're getting some information to enter here, and your title for the approval, we don't have a title field in the Excel sheet. If you had a title field, you could use that here. But for us, we're just going to put approval just to give it a name. And here for assign to, we're going to go and check for approver email. So this dynamic content is coming from the Microsoft form. It's the responses from the Microsoft form. And so if we want the email to be approved by that approver, we just choose the approver email from the form responses. In the details, you can put anything you want. You can type words in here, or you can choose from the content that's coming from the form. So in this circumstance, I'm going to put the first name, the last name. I'm going to say responded with, and I'm going to put the response for the question, and we'll put to, are we having fun yet? And you can make that any way you want. You can put any of those fields in. So if you need like all the information from a long form, you can put that in the details. It's fine. This circumstance, we're just doing a short, simple one. Notice you can also link back to the form. We don't want to do that. We don't really need it. So once we've done that, we're going to add a new step here. And this step is going to be conditional. So all we're telling it is if the approver answered approve, because they have the option of approve or reject. So if they answer approve, then we want to add a new line in an Excel sheet. So we need to add action, and we'll select down here Excel, because that is where our table, what our table is, an Excel table. And the action that we want, which there's several here, the one we want is add a row into a table. Now we choose where the Excel sheet is. So we want shared services. And it's in our documents document library. And the file is in my Coffee and Pie folder under presentations. And notice it's the only Excel sheet, so we're going to choose that. And then it's going to ask us to select the table, and there's only one table, so we'll choose table 1. And then here are our field options in Excel. So those are our column headers. And so we want to match those to the field responses on the form. So what we'll do is we'll go over here to the dynamic content, and we'll scroll down to the form responses down here, and we'll just match them up. So first name is first name, last name is last name. Fun is the question, are we having fun yet? And then the approver is going to be the approver's name. So I think I just labeled that approver in this circumstance. Yes. And then the approver email, and you'll have to scroll again to approver email. So what we've done here is we've set up a flow. We've said when there's a new response submitted on a form, PowerAutomateTutorial form, it's going to collect the responses. It's going to kick off an approval email, and we've decided who we want the approval to go to by approver email from the form. And we've decided to give them the details of the requester's first and last name and what they responded to the question, how they responded to the question. Now, if the approver approves it, then the data from the form will be added to a new row in our Excel sheet that we've already created. If they reject it, we don't have to add anything here, but you can add an email response to the requester to tell them that it was rejected. So we've created the flow, and we're going to save it. And notice up here you have a flow checker to see if there's any errors or warnings, anything that doesn't line up right, and we're good to go there. So let's test this flow out now. I have the form open here, and also have the form responses open here so that we can check them when a response comes in, but also have the Excel sheet open here. So what I'll do here is in the form itself is put in submission here, and I'll just put myself in here, and I'll put maybe, are we having fun yet? And then my approver is going to be myself just for this circumstance. and I'll put my email in here. And I'm going to submit it. It tells me it's submitted. And on my email, since I'm the approver in this circumstance, it will pop up and ask me to approve it. So let me get my email open. Okay, so I have my email and the Excel sheet side by side so you can see this in action. So I've submitted my Power Automate form. In just a moment, you'll see an email pop up on my email to approve. Okay, there's the approval email. I'm going to click on it. So this is from Power Automate. It says it was requested by me, and it gives the date and time I submitted the request. And then here's the information that we said we want to provide. So there's my name, first and last name, and then responded with, and that was my response to the question. And there's the question, are we having fun yet? And we have the option to approve or reject. I'm going to approve so you can see it populate in the Excel sheet over here. So I'm going to click approve. We have a place to put a comment. We don't have to, but I'll just put one in here so you can see it. And click submit. And notice that it populated my Excel sheet over here. So that is an example of a working Power Automate flow.